Hey guys, welcome back. In today's video, we are talking about the shorts hedging, AMC hitting new all-time high, how they can't settle AMC, and many more in this video. So first we're taking a look at this. Today, Swiss National Bank disclosed an extension of their AMC position to 1.8 million shares. Why on earth is the Swiss National Bank investing in AMC? Allowing myself a somewhat wild guess, they're hedging Switzerland against the unwinding of wrongdoings by Swiss banks like UBS. So we've seen this in the past before, and we've mentioned this, where we already know about how UBS, ever since they inherited Credit Suisse, they were being told to increase their margin requirements because regulations saw how their positions was getting too risky. They had too much exposure to positions that were easily able to bankrupt their company. And we knew that this was very likely because of the AMC and GME swaps, is why we recently talked about how UBS bought into AMC so that on paper, they can make themselves look like they are net neutral so they could get the margin requirement allowance from the government. But now what we're seeing is the Swiss National Bank. And this looks like, to me at least, is that they're trying their best to decrease the amount of exposure that UBS has put themselves on because of the AMC swaps. Once again, people are saying that AMC is a company that is going bankrupt, that no one is buying AMC, yet we're seeing companies continuously accumulating. This time is Swiss National Banks. Last time we've seen BlackRock, and we've seen many other firms as well. And I think that is already a big indication of what the projection and future for AMC is. We're also looking at this company, the asset manager with a focus on retirement savings, who just added another 7.8 million shares to their position. Now, once again, this is just an example of how AMC is being sought after. Whilst the media articles may be saying that people should sell, that they should never buy, the truth is that every institution out there right now all want to get a stake of AMC, and they want so by buying at the lowest price, but more importantly, as many as possible. Is why we've been seeing kind of the volume in the dark pool increase, is why we're seeing all of these institutions trying to buy now, and more importantly, is why we're very likely to be seeing the recent suppression, because they want institutions to get in rather than the retail, and so they're trying to create this whole fear factor going on. And again, like we've said, they wouldn't buy 7.8 million shares of a company if it was going bankrupt. And I'm going to stop saying this because I think at some point, everyone should understand this by now. No matter what the mainstream media is saying about AMC, wherever they're saying there is no future, wherever they're saying it's going to go bankrupt, the fact that no one's buying, or whatever it is that they want to talk about AMC, the truth is that you're seeing hundreds of millions of dollars going into billions of dollars who are all pouring into AMC. Whilst the articles, whilst they're trying to create this whole stigma of you should sell AMC, that no one's buying AMC, the truth is that people are buying. These are just two examples that we've given from institutions, but you have to understand there has been multiple. If you take a look at it here, firstly, they're saying that AMC sucks, is going bankrupt, retail are morons, but the smart money is clearly disagreeing. This is just going on to that example we were saying where you can see from the institutional ownership has gone up by 232% in 1 month. We're seeing now the institutional ownership to be at 35%. Now, we know that, again, this is very not likely to be the truth when we talk about real shares. But if we talk about the existence of synthetics, if we talk about potentially the 20 floats that are out there, is 35% owned by institutions? Maybe. But I think it's a big thing to understand is that institutions are buying and buying and buying. Despite what you may be seeing on these mainstream articles, the truth is that people are buying. We're also looking at how AMC hit a new all-time high in institutional holdings. Like I've said, I've already given enough example and I've shown you guys enough data in what the actual prospect for AMC is, in what actually people are wanting to do. You may think that I'm just trying to give a biased opinion, or you may think that I'm giving up facts. But when you see everything that's ongoing, when you take a look at the institutional ownership, when you take a look at the filings, when you take a look at everything, you'll see is that there is more money flowing into AMC than there is money flowing out. And a lot of them has been these institutions who have previously told you to not buy AMC, but now themselves has spent hundreds of millions of dollars into AMC. And we're only going to see this continue because they've realized just how worthwhile AMC is and what is going to return to them. One of the biggest example for this as well is if we take a look at this, anyone remember in May when the Wall Street Journal reported that IMAX was exploring the sale based on sources and the stock was trading at $33.88. It's currently over $51. In other news, the theater chain with the most IMAX screens taking advantage of the 2026 box office is struggling to break $250. So if you want to understand the real reason for why they're trying to buy into AMC, it's because from this already, you should realize how undervalued AMC is. If we take a look at what IMAX has experienced recently, the fact that it has gone from $33 back in May to now over $51 just midway through August, you should see what it is that the potential for the industry is, how money is flowing in. Now, more importantly, the theater chain that has the biggest market share, that has the most IMAX screens, aka AMC, yet we're struggling right now at this current price point of $250. And I think that already tells you a lot about what you need to understand, firstly with the suppression and manipulation, but secondly for why they want to keep AMC as low as possible and buy into as much AMC as possible. It's because they understand is that without a doubt, AMC is going to see one of the biggest price reflection in value in possibly the history of the market. And when we are able to get that real price discovery, when we're able to get that real price movement, what you're seeing for IMAX right now is going to be enhanced, multiplied on AMC. The fact that you were able to see it go from $33 to $51 after it was exploring the sale, after it has experienced the box office, think about how much AMC is going to experience when you see the real volume kicking in, when you see how real price discovery would be allowed on AMC. And that already tells you about why these institutions are buying and what the true potential is. And this, when you take a look at IMAX, when you take a look at Cinemark, you just understand how undervalued AMC is. Now, we have obviously been talking a lot about the synthetics as well. Earlier, we talked about the institutional ownership. And if we take a look at this and why I said that, no matter what we're seeing right now in terms of the data given to us, it is nowhere near the truth, is because take a look at this simple calculation. AMC float 827.5 million shares. Institutions own 32.47%, which is 289.8 million shares. Insiders own 48 million shares. So the retail's held share would be the total float, what we're seeing with 827.5, minus the 289, which is the institutional owned, minus the 48 million, which is the insiders owned, which equals to 489.7 million. That would mean that 489.7 million is the institutional ownership. Now, assuming the retail holders, which is 4 million, what we get is 122 shares per holder on average. Now, we've already seen how big the ape base is. We've seen how big the community is. So to assume a 4 million is not something that is crazy to me. What is crazy to me is they're trying to let us believe that apes on average only hold 122 shares. That's the most ridiculous thing to me. Now, this isn't me trying to say anything bad about people who hold a low amount of AMC shares or below 122 shares. That's never the case. As long as you own the share, you're an ape. And it doesn't matter what you do. It doesn't matter how you support it. If you haven't given up to these shorts, you are an ape and you're fighting against the short sellers. However, when we take a look at how many shares people own, and even in my comment section down below, or whatever it has been, we have averagely seen people owning 500, 1,000 and plus shares of AMC. What we regularly see is how people are buying 122 shares on a daily basis as opposed to the total ownership. And so if they want us to believe that everyone is on average only holding 122 shares, I think that is the biggest lie that they tell us. And it's from this that we know that the float has been sold so many times over. And you can see, I don't know about you, but it's been a long time since I've heard anyone talking about that 122 share AMC position. Now, this isn't me telling you to comment down below in terms of what your share position size is. Again, if you want to, feel free to do so. But this is me saying that we haven't seen for a very long time in terms of the mass average only having 122 shares. You've seen retail with over 100,000 shares. You've seen retail with 10,000 shares. The fact that we're talking about 122 share on average, I think that is something that is honestly ridiculous. And that's why I truly believe that the float has been sold so many times over whether it's 5 times, 10 times, or 20 times, like we've seen the data in the past before, it's being sold many, many times over. And the biggest mistake they've done because of this is that they gave us, the retail apes, too much time and too many cheap shares. Just like how institutions want to mass accumulate AMC, the apes are doing the same. And we have been doing this for a very long time because we're not spooked by the algorithm. We don't care about the calculations. We know what we buy into. We've done our due diligence. We probably are, when we come to AMC, I would like to argue that the majority of the apes will know more than any hedge funds out there, than any analysts out there, because they have done the due diligence, they have done the research on AMC, on this stock multiple times over, more than any of these analysts have done. And when we talk about whether or not the shorts are cooked on AMC, I do believe that. And it's like I've said in terms of the fact that apes have held so many numbers of shares of AMC, we are truly creating a massive, massive moment, and why the short sellers are scared. And if you want to see a reflection of this, if you want to see how regulations are also worried about this as well, is SEC exempts data center bonds from key securitization rules, where they make it easier for data center owners to sell asset-backed securities by not requiring certain disclosures and investors' protections. And this is what we've said with how you're continuously seeing regulations becoming more and more lenient for the institutions. Now, the very fact that they are doing this is because they understand if they were to be strict, if they were to enforce the rules that were made before to protect the market, then the market will be broken already. And this is how we can see that the short positions has gotten way out of hand. If we take a look at here right now, the DTCC have $140 trillion in assets, so massive that it needs to run a stable coin systems for derivatives clearing. Now, for those of you who've been watching my videos recently, or you've been looking on doing your due diligence, you'll know that recently there has been a lot of issues with liquidity, with settlement, and with clearing. Now, whether you're talking about the GME warrants that are not being processed and is left to individual brokers, whether you're talking about ETFs needing to be approved before it can settle, these are all showcases of how AMC and GME is having massive effects towards the system, how we have created a massive illiquidity problem for the regulations. And the fact that this is something that is affecting a system that previously had hundreds of trillions of dollars and that was working, but now isn't, it shows you how big of a situation AMC and GME has truly created. And when we talk about the AMC squeeze price, when we talk about why it can go to $1,000, $5,000 and higher, it's because a system that previously already had trillions of dollars that were able to run smoothly after it's met with AMC and GME, it suddenly can't do the same as before. Then we know how big this problem is. Then we know how much money is involved. And that's exactly what's ongoing with AMC right now. And when we take a look at here in terms of a reminder of just how distorted the AMC shares outstanding has become due to unlimited synthetic share creation, we are seeing at least 16 extra share float. Now, this is the research done, and this is from Biotech Moose, an ape in the community that has done countless amount of due diligence, that have given one of the best research out there. And we can see in terms of the calculations that he did. Now, the thing that I would like to argue against this is that we have to understand this is the conservative minimum, like he highlighted. We've already seen in the past how it could easily be 20 times, 50 times, and even more. And we don't have the sufficient data because this is something that we struggle. But the very fact that you're seeing how regulations are trying to stop this, how they're trying to stop transparency, they're trying to stop exposure of shares. These are just cases of how we know that the AMC situation is getting too big for the regulations. And when you take a look at a simple calculation here, you can already see 13.2 billion shares, 16 times the official flow. And as I've said it in the past before, even if AMC were to dilute 200 million shares, 500 million shares, even 1 billion shares, if what we're seeing right now with 13.2 billion synthetics created, 1 billion share isn't going to make a dent. Now, this isn't for me to say that I want them to dilute 1 billion shares, but this is just me saying that in the grand scheme of things, it isn't going to impact the squeeze because there is still so many synthetic shares that exist out there. As always, this is financial advice, and I'll catch you guys next time.